Kofi Thomas is a gardener, educator, advocate, public speaker, comedian, and founder of the Good Life Garden and the People's Garden in Bushwick, Brooklyn. He brings a unique and powerful voice to conversations around resilience, community, and hope of gardening as a revolutionary act. Kofi reminds us that gardens teach us how to live together. It's my great honor to welcome Kofi up here to spread a little bit more joy with all of us. So please help me in welcoming Kofi Thomas to the stage.
Woo. Hello, and good morning. Hello, everybody. Hello. First, I want to give thanks to BBG for having me. Thanks to Levin family. Thanks to anybody here who's an immigrant or first gen. Clap it up for yourselves for coming on out. Love y'all. And to all of the foundational black folks who built this city. Thank you to all. Today's keynote's going to be a little bit different. I'm pretty easygoing. I like to laugh, like to have fun, like to have joy, and also like to practice some radical acts. So one thing I would love is if you all could follow my directions, be good listeners. So I'm gonna say, turn to your right and say, hello, neighbor. So turn to your right and say, hello, hi? Okay. Ooh, y'all are enthusiastic. Now to your left. Some of y'all jumped ahead, I see you. Now turn to your left and say, hello, neighbor. Say hello, neighbor. All right. Now that is one of our first radical acts of joy today. And I do that with intention. When you say hello, neighbor, you are saying, I see you and I am in connection to you. You are my neighbor. When I say hello, neighbor, I would love for you all to say back to me, hello, neighbor. We ready? Hello, neighbor.
Hello, neighbor.
Yes, I love that. And throughout this talk, when I say hello, neighbor, you all know to respond?
Hello, neighbor.
Yes. Okay, this is going to be fun. I'm repping right now for Bushwick, Brooklyn. Yeah, BK in the house. I'm part of a couple of community gardens, the People's Garden and the Good Life Garden. And what I'm gonna do today is I'm gonna introduce you to some people in my neighborhood and talk about how they've impacted my life and how I see them in nature and how nature has taught me how to stay connected and to see power in our community. So our first person I want to introduce to y'all. Hello, neighbor.
Hello, neighbor.
This is Hernan Pagan. Yeah. Some of you know Hernan. If you do not, Hernan is in all respects a crazy old Puerto Rican man. I love him. He is amazing. When I first went to the People's Garden, he was the one that welcomed me in and started to introduce me to everybody on the block. He knows everything about everybody. Some folks might say it's gossip. Not him. He says that's part of our culture and that is how we talk. So when I look at Hernan, I see a tree. And I love being in this room amongst all of you people who are just these botanical baddies. I saw somebody clocking in the back. I see you, sis. Yes, we're clocking it. Botanical baddies, you tree huggers, you earth lovers, you stewards. I talked to somebody for half an hour about soil this morning. You all are strange, and I love you all. To me, Hernan is like a tree, and if we know, we do in this room about trees, but they communicate through their roots. They pass on information and resources, and that is what Hernan does. He's also provides shelter, and he is somebody who makes everything around him grow. On the top, or your top left, that is Hernan taking me to my first gardener meeting for the Brooklyn Queens Land Trust, and his hand raised up super high, letting me know that we as people should come together in organizations to own land and to take care of each other. Now, the top right, that is Hernan, myself, his brother Ralphie, and a small dog in Puerto Rico. Right after Puerto Rico had an earthquake, Hernan said, we're going down there and we're going to help the people out. So we took a trip and we took some supplies and raised some money. And in the bottom right-hand corner, we're going around to villages and passing out supplies to people in need. What I also learned from Hernan on this trip was that what we were doing wasn't any type of charity. This was an act of resistance, an act of community. These were our neighbors. So this wasn't something to feel sad about. We were happy to go from village to village, and that day of meeting people didn't end right there with any type of somber energy. No, we went out the next day because part of our culture is to have that resistance and that joy side by side. The next day we went out to a carnival and danced in the street. That is Hernan and his brother Ralphie, both in their 70s, dancing in front of a truck, letting me know that joy is always right after resistance. Our next neighbor I want to introduce to y'all. Hello, neighbor.
Hello, neighbor.
This is Julio and Veronica. These were two of the first people to make food for me in Bushwick. She made me tamales, which means I love her. That's what that means. And to me, they are like marigolds. They're beautiful, they're bright, and if you know about marigolds, which a lot of you do, they are protectors in the garden. They keep others safe. Julio and Veronica were expecting that little baby Julio, in December, but Hernan, being the tree that he was, or that he is, he told me, Kofi, Julio and Veronica have a predatory landlord, and he's been shouting at them, and they live in terrible conditions, and he's been threatening to call immigration on them. And so I said, what we gonna do about it? So we talked, and Julio and Veronica, I found out, besides being good cooks, are also these protectors. They got some gangster in them. They do, they don't play. So what they did is they started to put a case together, started to record their landlord saying these foul things. And then they started to tell other neighbors in their building about what was going on. They formed a tenants group. They sued the landlord and won. Yeah. And now that entire building has new landlord up to date, and baby Julio is 8 years old right now. Yeah, he's thriving. And so after that resistance, Julio, with his family, organizes every year one of the biggest Mexican celebrations in Bushwick. Yeah. Every year. We have joy and we have resistance. Now, next neighbor. Can y'all say, hello, neighbor?
Hello, neighbor.
This is about Irma. Irma, she's not in this picture because she's super shy. But Irma is a tiny little beautiful abuelita. The first 2 months in the garden, she didn't talk to me at all. I didn't know what her deal was, you know. But one day, I did something radical. I said, hello. Yeah, I did. And then she said hello back. And then she gave me a hug. And yeah, that changed everything. So I fell in love with Irma. And Hernan, being Hernan again, that tree, sharing information, he said, hey, you know, Irma is in a women's shelter across the street. And in that shelter, they don't support the women. They're not giving her information to get out of there. So I came back and I sat down with Irma. I asked, what's going on with your housing? And she told me, Irma had lived in Bushwick most of her life. She lost her apartment due to something domestic, and they told her that she'd be in this shelter for 2 months. It had already been a year, and she had no idea when she might get out. I talked to her and I said, well, what can we do? And she told me that there was one woman at the shelter who had helped her a little bit to get her paperwork in order. And that woman's name was Juanita de Jesus, who's right there in that picture. So me not knowing what to do, but knowing that Irma was this beautiful person. Irma, I usually call her like chamomile. If you know chamomile, it's calming, it soothes you. Whenever a woman in the shelter was having a mental issue, they'd go to Irma and sit down by her side. And she'd make them feel calm and make them feel heard. So this woman who did this for everybody else, I wanted to sit and listen to what she had to say, and I wanted to help her. I really wanted to help her, so I called Juanita and I said, hey, can you come by the garden and see if we can do something to get Irma out of there, to get her free. And when Juanita came by, I learned that there was actually many women who felt lost in that shelter. That shelter, they'd have like 10, 12 women to one room. Like so many systems in our city, they're not paid to help, and our most vulnerable are often the ones who bear the brunt of that. So I talked to Juanita, and she came by, and I learned about all these women who were trapped in this system where they had city money but no support and no information on how to get out of there, how to get free. So I asked Juanita if I could hire her, and I hired Juanita to lead a housing workshop twice a week. And it started off with 5 women. And then by the end, there was 40 people coming every week to learn about their rights and how to look for housing. And then they'd go back into the shelter and tell other women how to read their packets. It got to a point where I was buying printers and paper, and we had a full office in the garden, giving people packets. And to this day, I call Juanita. While she was in the garden, we helped 24 women get into permanent housing. And it's funny with these women who are in the garden, and you're thinking like there's, like nobody's helping them, people aren't looking at them. You'd think that they'd be down and be sad and feel helpless. One of the main questions I got during the workshop was, hey, when are we going to have karaoke? I was like, we always find joy. I'll give you all this picture for a little more joy. Last year, Irma got into her own place. Yeah, love you. Okay, next slide. Hello, neighbor.
Hello, neighbor.
This is a picture of the Good Life Garden many, many years ago. Again, Hernan, he told me about this place that was being abused. People were dumping trash in there. People were selling drugs out of there. And he had this look in his eye, like, this can be a garden, and I know you're crazy too. And I am. I'm crazy about gardens. So I went over there, I talked to some neighbors on the block. I did this crazy thing. I said hello. Yeah, it's wild. You're gonna try it. Yeah. I said, hello, neighbor. What's the story on this garden? And they told me about it. They said that they'd love to be able to grow food and to have workshops and have a place for their kids to play. And that was the energy I needed. I went into the space, I looked around, and I did some research, did some digging. But as it turned out, this space was supposed to be maintained. It was very, very vague. Something between the city and a senior home across the street. We're supposed to be managing the spot. Now, I went to the senior home with with a lot of energy in my back and a lot of my chest out. I was like, hey, I'm Kofi. Like they knew who I was. I said, hey, I'm Kofi. I would like to help clean up that garden. We can do some things, bring some activities. And the person at the time, she told me, I don't know anything about that garden. And I was like, oh, but I think you should. That's from, the neighbors say that you all own this space. And she said, no, we don't. So I went online and I found out that the space was actually the property of that senior home and the city. So then I emailed the property rights to the city and to the senior home. I said, hey, this is your property. What are we going to do about it now? We had some meetings. We cleaned up for months, just myself, Julio, and Hernan. Raked, cleaned, bagged trash. It got to a point where there were so many bags of trash, but we weren't like an official garden. So I would take all the bags of trash and put them into shopping carts and roll them around the neighborhood, just putting trash in different people's bins. And I laugh at it now, thinking what it must have been like for someone to look out their window and see this big black man with a shopping cart full of trash bags just every Wednesday and Friday. So I did that, and we cleaned the place up a bit. And then it got really exciting. It starts to gain momentum. More neighbors started to come in, and they were saying, hello, neighbor.
Hello, neighbor.
Ooh, and I was like, oh, there's more coming. They were cleaning up. They were grabbing rakes and shovels and talking about what they wanted to plant. It was getting more and more exciting. And then we had a meeting. To become an official garden on the Green Thumb. We had to have a meeting with the neighborhood and get a petition signed. So I was feeling amazing. I went to community board meetings. I wore a button-down shirt. I was like, ooh, I'm professional now. I am here to get this thing official. So we had people from the community board there. We had people from the city councilor's office there. We had community members there, and somebody was there from the real estate company that owned the building across the street. So the meeting starts off, and it's going great. I'm talking about the different things we can plant. We have so many local schools that don't have any garden space. We can partner with them, and I'm flowing. I'm flowing. And then something hit me in this moment of joy that I was having. A person from that real estate company had different ideas of what to do with the space. And I said, right, exactly, exactly. So they had different ideas what to do with the space, and I was like, oh. So they started saying things, I remember like it was yesterday. They said, oh, well, and they're looking, the room is full of our elders, right, from the home. Everybody's down there, and they're looking at the elders, and they go, oh, I don't know, do you all really want a garden? Do you? Or would you rather have some more affordable housing so your neighbors could live across the street from you? And I was sitting there, and like my family, is Caribbean. So I was like, do I cuss somebody out right now? I'm already sucking my teeth. Do I cuss somebody out? Ooh, you mad? I'm trying to hold it together. And in that moment of my joy, kind of vanishing, one of my neighbors, her name was Maggie, she'd always been super sweet, just kindest woman. I saw a side of her. Maggie said, excuse you? And I was like, I was like, yes, I hear it. Come on, Maggie. I heard that unmistakable New York attitude. Excuse you? Oh, okay. You think you're gonna come in here and talk to us about housing? Affordable for who? Oh, and it changed the whole tone of the meeting. She said, we don't want that and we don't know you. She said that, and it put so much energy back into me to know that we were connected and that we were fighting together for this garden. After the meeting, different people came up to me, somebody from the community board, somebody from the neighborhood, and they said, hey, we're together. Don't listen to anything they said. We'll sign your petition. We'll start a garden. And I was like, oh. It brought me so much joy. I had been walking around with this joy for a while, but I didn't really know how joyful I could be until my neighbors joined in. That was the real happiness. That changed it for me. And I thought to myself, this is like when I'm in the garden and I see things like the three sisters, the tres hermanas, when I see the corn and I see the squash and I see the beans and everything's leaning on each other and growing together and everything is doing its part to make the entire garden blossom and be healthy and be strong. And I saw so much power in that room that day. And it brought joy to me to know that we are powerful. And it reminded me that I've heard some things from different elders. I've heard Hernan say, we have everything we need in our neighborhood. I've heard people like Robin Wall Kimmerer say, we are enough. We have all that we need. That's part of what they do when they divide us and distract us. They try to make us forget who we are, how powerful we are, and who we are when we're together. I'm going to show some slides now, and I want to say thank you to everyone who's ever smiled at me, been kind, come into the garden, because what I'm learning, what I'm observing, is that whenever somebody comes by, whether it was Julio or Irma, they're reminding me of who I am. They're reminding me of who we are, of the power, how we are like trees, how we are like the marigolds, how we are like chamomile, how we can be strong for each other. But we can also be healers, and we can also be like mullein and make each other dream. We are like these plants. We are these plants. Where when you look around, I feel like it would help if we all could look inside us and identify, hey, I've got some qualities of that plant in me, or I'm kind of like that flower. And identifying and know those qualities will make us so much more powerful and make us so much more connected. So when people come into the garden, or when I see people walk around these spaces, I smile. I feel that joy because I'm reminded of who we are and who we are when we're together and how beautiful that is. When I see people, I see people, but I also see I see lavender, I see sage, I see wisdom, I see comfort. I see all that in you. I see all the plants when I look around this room. And I see joy. And from this moment of us cleaning up to the moment of that meeting and us fighting to make this garden a reality, that resistance to this system has led to so much joy. I ask all of you to resist, because to resist, for me, to resist is to remember. To resist is to remember who you are. It's to remember who we are. And it's to bring joy back. Joy. Yeah. You see? This is joy. This is what happens when we're together. You hear that? This is joy. This is what joy looks like. We grow food. Yes. We have kids. We have meetings. We have breakdancing festivals. We have our elders. These are the school groups which I have to shout out. These were the first students to ever have a class in our garden. So shout out to them, the Girl Scouts. And then these are the elders that helped to shape me. Merrick Marsden, that's Miss Mamie, and that's Miss Jamaica. Yeah. And that's something to I think, to take into. Like when you see somebody else and they give you, and you see the qualities that you admire or aspire for, like think about what type of plant that is and see how much of that's inside you. Yeah, and these are the kids planting among the flowers. I mean, this is all from, an old Puerto Rican man telling me that there's a garden. The little ones, and something I think about that brings me more joy is we resist and we fight and we go through all of these meetings and this politics, and it's exhausting. And we shouldn't have to do it. We shouldn't have to fight to grow food. We should not have to fight to be ourselves in our communities. But we do. And what brings me some joy in that is that when I see these kids walk in and they smile and they know nothing about the fight, they know nothing of the emails, nothing of the endless phone calls to politicians. They get to just be kids and run around and grow up in a fun and green and safe space. More joy, more of who we are is the music. So we have music festivals in the garden, and when you talk about resistance and joy, that's what the music is. That's the rhythm of our people. We get together and we get real loud, and we let them know that we're here. Yeah, more music. We bring folks together, and we heal people. When people try to like minimize your garden, don't let them. Don't let them. Our garden is a healing space. We feed each other, and for me, our garden is a reminder. It's a reminder of who we are. I was lost for a little while about who I was in this neighborhood, but the garden brought me back. More joy. It's people I love. And that's my family. Yeah. I'm gonna end on this. My family is Caribbean, so I better be sure I say thank you to my friends and family in Boston and Dominica. Thank you. I appreciate y'all. I learned from my mom and my grandma. My mom takes care of everybody she meets, and my grandmother, she used to take care of like all the kids in the village. So that's where I get it from. Yeah, and as a Caribbean person, if you don't say thank you to your elders, you will be in trouble. So thank you, aunties back in Dominica. I appreciate and love y'all. Yeah. I'm gonna leave you on this. Hello, neighbor.
Hello, neighbor.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right.